Westminster Cathedral, Ashley Place, Southwest 1, is a Roman Catholic cathedral in Byzantine style, built in 1895 to 1910. John Francis Bentley, the architect, did not live to see the building finished. The dominant feature of the exterior is the tall, thin campanile, or bell tower, which rises without ornamentation except for bands of stonework, contrasting with the brick to a graceful octagonal lantern. The tower was for years a permanent feature of the London skyline, but it is now dwarfed by neighbouring office blocks. Here it is, the picture. Westminster Hall, the Houses of Parliament, Southwest 1, the scene of many famous trials, including those of Sir Thomas More, 1535, and Charles I, 1649. The Hall was the chief law court of England from 1224 till 1882. Since then, monarchs and famous men have lain in state there before burial. The Hall, part of the medieval Old Palace of Westminster, was built by William Rufus in 1097. It was rebuilt in its present form for Richard II in 1394 to 1402 by Henry Yeville. The fine hammer beam roof was the work of Hugh Herland. Okay, let's go across to here. British Museum. The nucleus of the British Museum, established by an Act of Parliament in 1753, was the collection of scientific books and manuscripts bequeathed to the nation by Sir Hans Sloane, the fashionable 18th century physician. As other valuable collections were rapidly acquired either as gifts, bequests, purchases of copyright deposits, the museum's original premises had to be substantially enlarged. The present building, designed by Sir Robert Smirke and built in successive stages between 1823 and 1847, has since become the home of priceless man-made objects from all over the world, some of which are more than 3,000 years old. In addition to its 6 million books, the museum's contents range from medieval manuscripts to sheet music, postage stamps, the logbook of Nelson's victory, and a 1623 first folio of Shakespeare's plays. Many thousands of prints and was made in a workshop in the Mediterranean area, probably in Rome itself, and was buried during this troubled years that saw the end of Roman rule in Britain when the Anglo-Saxons were invading. So it looks like here we have some artifacts that are actually Saints Londini ad Fanum Isidis at London at the Temple of Isis. Probably belonged to a tavern near the temple. The jug dates from the early 1st century AD and is one of the earliest examples of an inscription using the Roman name for London. Here is an old-fashioned fire engine. Now this is from 1862, I think. And on this side is a photograph of the Cheapside Hoard. This hoard of jewellery, probably part of a city merchant stock in trade, was hidden in Cheapside early in the 17th century, provides a unique record of the taste in jewellery of the middle classes of that period. One of the most exquisite objects is a scent bottle, or pomander, in the bottom right on a chain set with a sapphire, opals and diamonds, which I think might be that. The National Gallery. Since its foundation in 1824, the National Gallery has grown to be one of the greatest museums of art in the world. It is remarkable for the balance of its collections. All of the important national schools and almost all of the major old masters are represented. The richest collection of all is that of the Dutch masters, which includes 19 Rembrandts. The gallery, founded when the government voted £60,000 to purchase and exhibit 38 paintings from the Angusteen collection, moved to its present site, then newly built in 1838. It now has more than 2,000 paintings. As a matter of policy, drawings, watercolours and pieces of sculpture are not acquired, but an exception was made in the case of the Leonardo cartoon, which was purchased in 1916. It is dated. Let's see. Oh, I don't know, it doesn't say. But it is 18th century. And here is a sculpture by Modigliani, Stone Head. We've got Picasso's Three Dancers, 1925, and Kandinsky's Fragment for Composition 4, 1910. The Victoria and Albert Museum. Prince Albert, the Prince Consort, planned a great complex of museums and colleges at South Kensington with money derived from the Great Exhibition of 1851. The South Kensington Museum, a collective museum of science and art, was erected. Opened in 1857, it incorporated the collections of the Museum of Ornamental Art, opened at Marlborough House in 1852. The art department grew rapidly to include fine and applied arts of all kinds, represented chiefly by post-classical European art, and that of the Near and Far East. Eventually, because of lack of space, the science exhibits were moved to the new Science Museum nearby. In 1899, Queen Victoria laid the foundation stone of the present building, designed by Sir Aston Webb. She stipulated that the title be changed to Victoria and Albert Museum, and in 1909 Edward VII opened the new building. It now contains one of the world's outstanding collections of fine and applied arts. Here is an example, the Sion Gospels cover, a German manuscript cover, revealing an unusually high degree of craftsmanship in the use of repoussé, ornamental metalwork that has been hammered into relief from the reverse side. The book dates from about 1000 and has a beech wood cover veneered with gold, its surface richly decorated with precious stones and cloisonné enamels. Some more things in the Victoria and Albert Museum. This is the Sion Cope, a cope or large semicircular cloak. Is the main vestment worn at numerous ecclesiastical ceremonies. This is a